and we can be able to move on as a country. So that is the conversation we want to have. We all know that high stakes revolve around any general elections, and the August polls are no different right here in Kenya. There's already a lot that is happening, a lot of expectations, a lot of, you know, tension that is there, and there's a lot of warnings that are being given to political candidates and political parties regarding not inciting people. And of course, even yesterday, the EU gave their own warning and said that if we do not take the right steps, then probably we could be looking at a situation where there's going to be election violence. So these are observers that have come to assist in looking at how Kenya is going to conduct their general election. So what can we be able to do as a proactive approach to all this? Nobody wants to go back to where we were in 2007, 2008, when we experienced the post-election violence. But then again, how did we get there, and what can we be able to do this time that is different? So with me in studio, I'm joined by two amazing ladies. I'll start with the lady sitting right next to me here, an amazing woman, Madam Irene Njeri Wanyoike. She's the Deputy Chairperson of NCIC. Of course, she's here to tell us more about what NCIC is doing and their role in what is happening, that I'll be letting you know in the course of this program. There's a big prayer event that is being organized that is going to bring together over 10,000, women and just anybody who is willing to pray for the country. Something that I'll be letting you know. Of course, joining her as well is Bernice, Gatere, who is the Executive Director, TransWorld Radio Kenya Ministries. She's here for the second time. Thank you so much for coming again on Good Morning Kenya. And of course, just to start our conversation, there's a lot going on already in our political atmosphere. And probably there's also people who are asking why these talks about peace, peace, peace all the time. So as an entry point to this conversation, I'd ask you, let me start with you, Bernice. Is election violence such a big problem that, if you look at what has happened in other countries, is it something that is, worth even, talking about?
Yes, it's something that is very, very worthy talking about. And even without going very far, if we look at our own history as Kenya, every election cycle, we have had some form of tension and some form of conflict. And of course, the worst one is the 2007-2008, which really put Kenya on the world map for the wrong reasons. So it's something that is seriously important and vital for any nation that has had, especially one which has had that history, to consider dealing with it before it happens. I think 2007, many of us were caught unawares by the magnitude of the problem. So it is important that we deal with it early, we talk about it, we have a conversation as a nation, and each person stands where God has put them to do something to make sure that that does not happen again.
Okay.
Yeah.
And of course, I was looking at, Irene, the African election violence database, and they say that half of countries in sub-Saharan Africa experience some form of election violence. And we all remember Burundi, we remember Nigeria in 2011, and even just Kenya the other day in 2007. Why is Africa such, a target? Why are we so fragile when it comes to managing our own, general elections?
Thank you for that question. I think Africa, we are a growing democracy, and leadership has in a way always been a tribal affair or a community affair. When I get to power, my community gains. When I'm out of power, that, is perception, my community does not benefit. So it's like, if I'm the leader, I get it all. And that has actually led to many conflicts in Africa, because you find it's so personalized. It's so personalized that once you lose, it's like a whole community loses. And a good example is our country, Kenya. When you look at the way we campaign along tribal lines. My people. What does my people mean? Already you are dividing people when you talk of my people, my party. And when you look also at the political parties, they are actually bent on these tribal affiliations. even the two major parties, if you look at them, if you interrogate the two parties, you find it's tribal arithmetic. So it's not like it's leadership. It's not like America where they are, or any other country, or Britain where people know I'm a Briton, I am an American. And so when we are going to elections, we are looking for a leader who will take us to the next level. In Africa, we are still not, we are evolving, but I know we will get there at one time. So it's not all hopeless. But we are looking at it like, once I get to power, my community benefits. And sometimes that is an illusion. It doesn't happen. If you look at our past, let's say even president, go to Gatodo. Tell me, what is there so special about Gatodo and the people of Gatodo? Go to the Rift Valley, where Moi came from. Tell me, what changed? I mean, apart from a few individuals, what changed? So I think we are a growing democracy. We have not reached that stage where you look at a leader and see that leader as a national leader. You know, it's like a tribal kingpin. So we have those problems, and we are hoping we will have a new generation that will look at things differently. And I've heard of the 44th tribe or something like that, who have come up, who are saying, we have no tribe, we have no whatever, we are Kenyans. And I can't wait for that. Maybe I will not be there, but I can't wait for that day when we will look at leaders as our national leader, you know, a leader who will transform the whole country, not a leader who will be looked at like, I will transform my community. Because if you look at the community, it's not that the communities have been transformed by the leaders. No. No.
Okay.
And I'm happy we have devolution now that is now taking everything to the communities, to the grassroots, to their level. I mean, that money is doing a lot, and it has changed a lot. And I think devolution will be a game changer in the politics of Kenya. Yes.
It's already started, and it's good, you know, like in the national, you know, environment, we may see politics as a very tribal affair. But if you go down to the grassroots at the local level, where a majority, you know, voters come from one tribe, politics is not about tribe. It's about issues. It's about who has delivered and performed for us. We've seen, you know, counties where MCAs have gone home, all of them, regardless of which tribe you come from, just because they did not perform. Members of parliament have gone home, incumbents. So it's really, you know, a game changer, like you say. And it's good also that you talked about the US, you talked about Britain, you talked about Germany. These are countries that we rarely hear them being involved in election violence. Sometimes when we get covered in the international media, when we are conducting our general elections, it's always something that happened, a violence that erupted somewhere, such a grim picture that we paint even in the international, you know, arena. So before we move to other issues, Bernice, what do you think it will take to break, you know, the cycle of tribalism? At least for the party affiliation, the independents are coming in to break that. But for tribal affiliations, for making politics such a tribal affair, what do you think it will take? What's the root cause that we need to deal with?
I think it starts at the family level. What are we telling our children about tribes? What is the conversation around the dinner table? And one of the things that is already dealing with that is our cross-cultural marriages, which I believe should be celebrated, because they are bringing a generation, the generation that is Kenya that you're talking about. As children born in a cross-cultural marriage are really Kenyans, because they don't belong to one or the other. They will associate themselves with the nationalhood of the country. The other thing is also the church, because the church brings us together. When we go to church on Sunday, you don't care the person sitting next to you what tribe they are. You see a fellow believer, you see a fellow Christian. And we have seen the same also. So the church has a very big role to play and to teach the congregation that what we are experiencing here, the family of God, the culture of Christ, is a culture that we can now take back to our homes and live as neighbors, good neighbors. And again, we've seen that also in our neighborhood associations, that we, especially if you look at a place like Nairobi, which is which has people from different corners of the country and the world. When your neighbor is in trouble, you run to help them. You don't care which tribe they come from. So I think one of the things is to celebrate our humanity and our oneness. Yes, accept our diversities, and we come from different places, but teach our children that what matters is that we are human beings. God created us the same. We are unique, and that there's no tribe that is more superior than another, because there's nobody who applied to be born a Kikuyu, to be born a Luo, to be born a Kalenjin, to be born a Kamba. Nobody made an application. You just found yourself there.
Yeah, true.
So there's really nothing that makes one more special than others.
And
because
you do not need to be held at ransom or punished for being
who you are, because
Exactly.
it's not a choice that you made.
Yeah.
No.
What we need to do is celebrate, learn more about the other cultures. What are the good things that we can borrow from this one? Which is the ones that we should do away with, so that we are building a cohesive society and cohesive nation from every aspect of society.
Okay, it's not wrong to have a tribe,
Yeah,
but then
it's
again,
not.
how are we using,
Yes.
you know, that responsibility and that
Yes.
mandate to better the lives of other people? Because
Yes.
we're all diverse,
Yeah.
and God gave us different, unique abilities
Yes.
as tribes, as people. It's a very good point you've raised. Let me come back to you, Madam Irene Wanyoike. Allow me call you Commissioner. You sit at a very high seat at the NCIC. If you look at, you know, if you were to assess the August polls, the campaign trail that is already happening, we are at 34 days. You've seen what has been happening across board. What are some of the risk factors that you'd like to warn the country about? You know, people think we wake up after the general elections and that's when the violence erupts. What are some of the things that you can be able to warn us about now? The EU, you know, observers of the elections gave their own warning yesterday, and probably people may feel we are peaceful. Why now? But what would you be able to read? What are you reading right now?
Let me say, yes, it looks like we are peaceful, but it is what we call negative peace. There are so many things underlying, and it's like a stage has been set, and all what we are hearing is rumors of war. Politicians out there are issuing warnings. We will not accept a rigged election. They are telling the followers, we will not accept an election that where a process has not been done properly. So what are you telling the masses on the ground? What are you telling the voters? You are preparing them for war. Because let's assume you're telling them, what do you say by you will not accept results of an election that is rigged? We have not reached there. So what are you saying? We have not even done elections. We are very far. We are over 30 days. And yet you are saying you will not accept. Let's assume you fail. Will you accept? You say it is rigged. I mean, I'm looking at a stage that is being set that is very dangerous.
These are dangerous statements.
Very dangerous.
But allow me cut you short and
yeah.
you know, just ask you, probably it could come from the complaints that they're raising now that probably they feel are not being, you know, taken home probably by the key stakeholders in the elections, and they feel like if our needs are not addressed, then this election is not going to be free and fair in their view. What would you advise, you know, probably IEBC, the engine, in terms of managing all these complaints? And
I would
yeah,
advise,
what can they be able to do in terms, as a way of, you know, preventing any complaint that will come after the general election?
One thing they need to do is information sharing, engaging the political leaders almost on a daily basis on what they are doing. Because if you keep quiet and you let them talk, the masses already are, you know, are having that mindset that you're not doing right. And yet maybe IEBC is doing its best, but they should engage those leaders almost on a weekly, I don't know, weekly or daily, because we have only 4 weeks.
Yeah.
It is time that IEBC came out and engaged the political leadership almost daily talking to each other, talking to each other. And that is the conversation that needs to be taking place in Kenya, talking to each other. And that is why we are calling the women meeting, the women prayer walk, talking to Kenyans, women's talking to Kenyans, talking to the political leadership. Because when you are talking, there is something, you sort of remove the tensions. So for me at this time, 34 days, is it 34, 36?
Yeah, 34.
34 days, what we need to do is talk to each other. IBC, I would advise IEBC to come out, give information. I don't know whether it's a press statement every day or every alternate day.
Yeah.
Call
explain
the
what's happening
explain what is
closed
happening.
doors.
Call the politicians, the political leadership. Talk to them on a daily basis. Issue a press statement together of what you have said. Don't just talk to them and let them go. No. Talk to them and make sure that the media is there and it is reported live what you have discussed. Because what I've discovered is they go into a bedroom, a boardroom, and they discuss issues, and the IEBC goes about their normal businesses, and the politicians come out, and you know politicians are politicians, and they give their own press statement without the IEBC, their own fashion. Why don't you make it live?
And we've also seen the unfortunate situation where IEBC has been put at a point where they always have to respond to what the politicians have said. But then, let's, even if we are to leave IEBC out and looking at what you've said, it's about having, a reactive sort of dialogues. Like in 2007, the dialogues came after the damage was done and people were fighting and lives had been lost.
Which is wrong.
What you're advocating for is that the dialogue should happen before the election. The competitors should be put at the same table and drink tea together now, so that when it comes to the general elections, then whoever wins carries the day, whoever loses go home and life moves on. But then let's talk about, the role of the stakeholders that are involved in any election. And most importantly, let's start with religion. Because, there is a lot that has been said that, is it politics playing a role in religion or religion playing, playing a role in politics? Let's start from, this question. Do you think that, the religious leaders, the imams, the pastors, the bishops, people from the Hindu community, they should get themselves involved in politics, a game that has been termed dirty?
There was somebody who had put something on Facebook yesterday, kind of a poll, asking whether religious leaders are neutral in this political process or they are taking sides. And I was amazed by the comments that people are commenting on this post, and were saying that most of them are aligning themselves with their tribes. So even the messages that are being preached tends to lean on one side or the other.
It's still politics in church.
It's still politics. And then when you go to the imams and all this, it's which coalition have we aligned ourselves with? So what we are speaking in the mosques and in the temples is aligned to where we have aligned ourselves. And I think that is one of the things that the religious society must begin to think about critically. Because some of the comments people are saying, what happened to the likes of Bishop Muge or Bishop Okulu, Mwana and Zeki, people who actually just stood on what was the truth, what was fair, irrespective of which political divide had done it. So it's true that there seems to be a leaning to one side or the other by the religious leaders. It is very unfortunate because we need the voice of conscience in the nation right now.
So that answers my question.
Yes.
They have a role to play in politics.
Yes, they do.
But
they
then
do.
what role is that?
The role is to actually point out the direction, like what we are here to talk about, peace, that Kenyans want peace. And therefore, as religious leaders, they must always point out, when she talks about the statements being made in political rallies, we need a neutral figure, like the religious leaders who stand and say, you said this, it was wrong. And they need to be able to summon our political leaders and remind them that Kenya is one will remain Kenya. We'll all have to live in this country, as you have said, even after the election. Elections come and go. But we are here. God has put us here. For a purpose. We have even been given the role by God to host others from troubled countries. So it's, our religious leaders have that role to tell politicians, we know this is a season for you. You are looking for votes. You are doing it in any way possible, sometimes saying things as you shouldn't say. But please remember, we need peace. We demand peace as a population. And because people are listening to you, don't just think about yourself and the position that you're seeking. Those masses will suffer the most if anything happens in this nation. Think about them.
They say that during that time, most of these politicians have ferried their families abroad.
Yes,
I know.
You know, and it's the common Wanyoike who remains in the country suffering and fighting one another.
Actually, let me just say something about the religious leaders and all that. Religious leaders ought to be neutral arbiters in all this. Neutral in, their voice is very hard. People hear them. Let me tell you, even the people who go to the churches or to the mosque, what the imam or the bishop says becomes the truth. It is actually the truth. And they have big followings. Let me tell you, if they took their place in society seriously, the way they should, they are able to command a hearing from the politicians. They are able to tell them this is wrong and summon them, and I'm telling you, they can make a difference. I believe that very, very strongly, that the religious leaders can stop what is happening in this country if they take their work seriously. And I'll tell you why. Politicians fear numbers. Politicians love numbers. There are numbers in the mosques, there are numbers in the churches.
That is why they attend funerals.
Yes, that's why they attend all funerals. They attend all weddings, even if they don't know you. They are there. So if the churches were to take it seriously, their voice would be heard. And they would be able to start and say, you politicians, we are warning you. We don't like what you are saying.
But how can you do that if they've written a check of
but
$4 million and they've given you?
Unfortunately, as my sister has said, they have taken sides.
And
there is nothing wrong to have political leanings. You can have your political leanings and still be a neutral arbiter. I am a mediator, a professional mediator. And when I have clients, I don't want to know you at all. In fact, if I think I may be seen to be leaning towards you, I remove myself.
Conflict of interest.
Conflict of interest. So as a mediator, it doesn't matter. You are looking at an issue, at resolving an issue, and it doesn't matter your political leanings. Remove it and resolve this issue. That doesn't mean the side that you are leaning on will not get the vote. They will get the vote. In fact, you help them get the vote by putting them on track. But taking sides and doing what we do and allowing the politicians to take our pulpit and spill hate inside the church, that is very wrong.
It's not wrong to, as a religious leader, to have party affiliation or to have...
It's okay.
But then when you're representing the public, the general mass, the population in your church, that is the time to be neutral.
No, it should be personal to yourself.
You
put it right.
Yes.
Your political leaning,
it's yours. It's yours.
Is personal to yourself. Remember, the congregation that is in your church does not belong to one political party. They belong to many political parties. So you have many tribes in your church. So you have to, whoever, because you have a vote, your vote. You have a choice. You have a preference. You think this one is better. But as an arbiter and a neutral arbiter and a man of God, it is very, very important to make sure that you are neutral so that you are able to command that respect. And that is why they are being abused today. Yes, you can see even politicians who insult a political leader because they know each other. They know each other.
And the church has also been accused of loosening their grip, you know, and taking a back seat in some of these issues.
Yes.
And it's also important that as a religious leader, you are informed of what is happening in the political
Yes.
atmosphere,
Very,
so that
very
when you're in
important.
church, you can demystify a lot of
Yes.
propaganda
Yeah.
that politicians play and throw about.
Yes.
Let's talk about influencing decision through
27.
prayer. I like that part, through prayer.
Yes.
So yes, religious leaders have a role to play, not just leaders, but any person who calls themselves a Christian, a Muslim, whichever religion you belong to,
A
you
Hindu.
have a
Yes,
Hindu,
Hindu, yes.
you have a role to play,
Yes.
you know, in terms of what is happening in our political atmosphere.
Yes.
So how is it going to work? Influencing decision through prayer. What's the inspiration? What are you planning? What is it all about, Bernice?
Okay. Influencing Decision 2017 through prayer is just about that. That we can influence this decision through our prayers. And when 2007, 2008 happened, I remember looking at footage of young men armed to the teeth, destroying cars and burning property and all that. And I remember asking, whose children are these? Because they were young men. And as a mother, it broke my heart. And I asked God, please help me to raise my children better. So it's about influencing decision 2017. It's about mothers of the nation, irrespective of creed, religion, color, coming together to pray for peace for our nation before, during, and after the elections. And you are asking how it's going to work. We are basically mobilizing women from all over this nation. Of course, most of them from Nairobi, since the event is from Nairobi. But we're also getting a representation from the counties. And we will be gathering in different gates into the city to basically stand as women, because in any situation of war or conflict, you find that the people that suffer the most are women.
Because I was about to
children.
ask, why
Yes.
women?
Yes.
You know, prayer is a universal thing.
It
Why
is.
women?
Yeah,
What's the
because
significance?
we are the most affected. If you go to any if you go to Sudan right now, the people that are suffering the most are women and children. So we feel that as mothers, we actually have a role. So that's one. The other one is that we are the ones who give birth to these people, you know. And therefore, even though you will not see very many women at the forefront running, we don't have the physical strength to take stones and go running. And sometimes as women, we may feel helpless or like we are spectators in what is happening. And this Influencing Decision 2017 is a statement from the women that we are not helpless. We are very, very strong. Yes, we'll take every opportunity to talk about peace, but we also have power on our knees, that we are strong on our knees. There's a song that talks about when Mama prays. Good things happen. So we are telling the women of Kenya, so long as we are on our knees for this nation, good things are going to happen.
Irene, what good things are we looking? Is it just peace that we need to pray for every time we talk about election? What else do we need to pray for when people are preparing for a general election? What are we influencing?
Peace is a very, very important ingredient. I don't know how to equate it, because it's not even like salt on food. It's different. Peace is a very, very important ingredient, because without peace, all those other things will not happen. If there is no peace, there will be no elections. And if there are elections, there will be violence. If there is no peace, we will not be here on KBC. If there is no peace, you close this station, I'm telling you. If there is no peace, economy, everything will be, I mean, look at Syria, a country that was so ahead. They are at war now. Look at the country, it's in shambles. So peace is very, very important. So for us, number one issue is peace. Because when we are we have peace, we can talk about issues of governance. We can talk about structural issues. We can restructure a government that we need. We can be able to implement the Constitution. Devolution can work. Everything can work. Our children can go to school. We will be able to go to our share bus and even, you know, and plant and do all the things that we need to do. So without peace, I mean, we can't do anything. Most of us maybe will run away from Kenya, others will go to Uganda. I don't know, Kenyans, we don't know how to run away. We know how to receive people and give them a place of refuge. So this time round, it is about peace. Because if we have peace in this country, now, during, and after, it means we are saying, even as we are doing that, we are also praying for peaceful elections, not just peace, peaceful elections. And when we have peaceful elections, let me tell you something, maybe as women, we do not have what it takes to make them credible. Because the word out there is free and fair. We are not able, we are not in a position, maybe, we are not in those institutions that influence the elections to be credible and whatever. But when you pray for peace, when you pray for peace and there is peace, people are able to think properly. And we are actually not just praying, we are engaging. You know, our prayer is also engaging the leadership. Because when we go to Uhuru Park, what are we doing? We are sending a statement to the political leadership. Here we are as women, almost 50%. People say we are 52, others say 48. So you can see we are many. We are here as women and we are sending this statement to you, the political leadership in this country, that these are votes and we are watching you and we are telling you that we want peace in this nation. We may not threaten, but the numbers, our numbers,
speak for themselves.
Speak for themselves.
Let me also ask, is it important as this decision is influenced to even take time to think about the kind of leadership we want, to also consult God on some of these issues? Or is it just peace we are praying for?
It's not just peace, as important as it is. We believe that peace also comes through us making the right decisions. That we are not going to vote in candidates just because the wave is moving in this direction. That will actually take time to interrogate these candidates and see who has the best policies for us, for the nation, for the county. Last night there was a debate for the governors. So as women, we were watching. So it's also making electing the right leader based not on tribe or political affiliation, but based on what that candidate is bringing on the table and whether it favors women or not.
Okay. I have very few minutes left.
Said about peace. Let me talk about peace. Why I said peace is, you see, the way things are, it's like our minds have been held hostage. I don't know whether you have sensed that. The might of Kenyans is like it has been held hostage, but the talk that is there, the politics, everything, that people are not thinking straight. Even when they look at the debate, they are not seeing the leaders. They are thinking of, oh, that one Niwetu, you know, something like that. So
we've grown into fanatics.
Yeah, we are fanatical.
Yes.
There's so much hype that I don't think Kenyans are thinking straight. They're thinking about our leader. So when there is peace and there is quiet, let's assume there is peace and quiet, Kenyans can now sit down and be able to think straight and even listen to a debate like the one that was there yesterday and see, do these people have anything really for us?
That's important.
Yeah, but when your mind is sort of captured, you are like a prisoner of yourself. I mean, you know nothing. It's what your leader tells you to do. It's what the political leader tells you. You are all fanatics because your mind is held hostage. That is why for me, I say peace, 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 peace. Amani, amani. Because without that, and without that space we should be given space by our political leaders to think. I don't think we are being given. I don't think Kenyans have time to think.
To think.
No,
There's
they
no
are
space to
hosting.
think. If you see what supporters are doing across
Yes.
board, you'd be shocked.
Yeah.
In Migori County,
Yeah.
supporters clashed
Yeah.
of, you know, the aspirants for the governor's
Yes.
position.
If you ask
Yeah.
them, they don't know why they were crashing.
Yes.
In Siaya the other day, the NASA flag bearer was forced to
Yes.
cut short his rally after
Yeah.
supporters of local leaders
Yes.
there, you know, clashed.
Yeah.
You know, and there's in Bungoma, one person lost his
Yeah,
life.
they're slaves.
Yes.
They are
Yes.
slaves.
Mm.
They have been held hostage.
You see, so it's
They're not thinking.
Yeah.
It's really a mess.
So
we have
we
to
really
bring
need
this conversation to a close, unfortunately. So I'll give you, you know, time to give us your final words. When and where will, you know, this be happening?
Okay. Yeah, the prayer walk is on Saturday, this Saturday, the 8th of July, 1 month to the general election. And it will be at Uhuru Park. And we'll be coming from 7 different gates to the city. So we are inviting women to gather at the gate at 7 a.m. and to gather at the gate that is closest to you. We will have women coming from Thika Road, and they will be gathering at Kahama Hotel.
Globe roundabout.
Near the Globe roundabout at 7.
All right. So
And that's where they'll start prayers
this
and
weekend.
then march to Uhuru Park. We'll have women coming from Jogoo Road, and they'll be meeting at St. Peter's Clever's Church.
Probably we may not, because
Yes.
of time, we may not.
Yeah.
Online,
Yes.
where can they get this information online? Or they just follow the hashtag.
They can follow the hashtag,
then
and
can
they'll get the information
Okay.
on the various gates.
Okay.
Yeah, but Uhuru
So-
Park from 8:30.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
So your final word, Irene, and just as you do that, there was this announcement NCIC made about gadgets that are going to be holding leaders accountable
Yes.
on the statements they make in rallies and in public,
Yeah.
you know, forums, and it was a way of curbing incitement. How far is that? Is there any tangible result?
Yes, there is tangible result. We are already getting information direct from the counties to our server in the office. We are getting live coverage of somebody. I mean, if somebody is uttering words that are hateful, we are getting them right in our server.
Is
We
there
are-
any action that has been taken
Yes,
against
a lot of
anybody?
action has been taken. We are talking to the leaders. We haven't taken people to court because we thought at this particular time we need to talk to the leaders. And so we are approaching them or going to a meeting in that area. We've been to Uasin Gishu. You know what has been happening. We've been there. We've been to Mombasa on the same issues. When we get this information, we go on the ground. We've been to Laikipia. We've been to Nakuru, Naivasha. We've been to Kisumu, especially the border between Nandi and Kisumu. Anytime we get this information, our officers are on the ground. I can tell you, like today, they are all over. There is a group that is in Kisumu. There is a group that is in Laikipia. There is a group that is in Mandela. There is a group, I mean, we are all over. Apart from me now, who is actually popularizing the women walk. So the gadgets are working. We are getting information, maybe even before you people get. Sometimes, because the gadgets are small, they go to political, our monitors go to the political meetings, and you just need to switch on the gadget. It can be in your pocket, and you get live information. As you get the information, it is transmitted direct to our server, and we get it live. And so what we are doing right now, it is not the time to rush people to court. We are rushing to the ground to do investigation because we have investigators. We rush to the ground, we get the information, we get the leaders without even hyping the information. We talk to them. If I tell you we have had a lot of progress in Uasin Gishu, and you saw the 2 leaders saying they are going to work, a lot has been done behind.
Okay.
We are doing a lot behind the scenes, but that is not what Kenyans like.
Kenyans want to see
in the
results.
media. Yeah, they want to see in the media.
Because people
but
have been asking, what's
I know.
happening?
We are doing
Yeah.
a lot on the ground, and maybe that's why it was a little bit quiet up to last week.
What's the motivation of the quiet approach?
The motivation of the quiet approach is a politician has said what they have said. If you go to the media, they will talk again. So basically when you engage that leader underground and talk, they are very sober. You would be surprised. You would be surprised the kind of people that you have. They are saying, no, that was just, you know, anger, what, you know, those things that you say just like that, you engage them. And you find that person the day after and the day after, they are talking differently. And if you watch like it was in Gishu, isn't it a little bit quiet? If you look at Mombasa, isn't it a little bit quiet? We are in Mandela. Today there are people in Mandela just to talk to the leadership and to other
So do you
places.
tell the leader to go back and try and clean up? Because if you talk to the leader, they are sober, but then what the impact that what they say has done, how do you...
You see, you said something wrong last week, but this week you're talking peace.
Okay.
And you're talking to the same crowd. And that, the people are not stupid. You are the same people who talked about war or something or violence, but now you're talking peace. And people say, oh, he has changed. Okay. You know, and you influence the people on the ground by what comes out of their mouth. When leaders come and promise to work and to promote peace, the people on the ground here, when you incite them, when you say we will do what and this, then they do it there. In fact, they fight immediately there. I mean, when the
and that is the power of these political parties and political leaders. They should know that people are loyal to them, and they can actually use that power to make people think right and do the right things.
Maybe on the meeting, meeting is there on Saturday, and we are calling upon all women of this country to join to pray for this nation, for our children and for our children's children, for the future of this nation.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Irene Wanyoike, the Deputy Chair of NCIC, and Bernice Gatere, Executive Director, TransWorld Radio Kenya. These are the women to look out for. If you are a woman, you're watching this program, this is Women at the Forefront, get a time to interact and read stories of some of these amazing women that can inspire you and move you to the next level. It's a show, of course, that targets to uplift women and to empower them in different ways. My name is Safina Chieng. We do this again next Tuesday, the segment Women at the Forefront, but we will be here tomorrow again bright and early for other things. But don't go anywhere. Samuel Njeri is coming up with the health item of the day. Good Morning Kenya continues, so keep engaging us.